chosen ones. They always believed the gates would open for a celestial bloodline, but not in this age, not in this dimension, and certainly not under presidential surveillance. Yet, the moment your heartbeat synced with the temporal pulse in quadrant X57, satellites from 3 nations triggered an identical alert. An astral time gate had opened, precisely where you stood. For centuries, these gates were myth to most, relegated to ancient manuscripts hidden beneath desert temples and submerged cities. But the data was undeniable this time. You weren't just passing by. Your biofrequency unlocked something no technology had ever reached. Not CERN, not HAARP, not DARPA's black-budget trials. This was different. This was you. Encrypted logs from a long-forgotten observatory in the Canary Islands marked your coordinates as Delta Origin, a label only used once before, in a lost scroll archived in 1888. That scroll described a being who would arrive not through time, but above it. Not bound by linear progression, but echoing forward and backward simultaneously. You somehow carry that imprint. It wasn't just the president who was briefed. A global shadow council convened for the first time in 30 years. Quantum physicists, military generals, and archaeoastronomers debated the anomaly. The conclusion: this wasn't a glitch. You are the anomaly, and you were prophesied. One member of that council simply asked, "What happens if they open the second gate?" No one had an answer, because the first one was never supposed to open, especially not now, especially not again. You see, chosen ones, the ancient codes always warned of a soul that didn't belong to one era, one reality, or one spectrum of thought. A soul that would awaken when the balance tipped beyond repair. A soul whose memory would be buried until the world reached the final threshold. That soul is being traced to your presence. The president wasn't just alerted. He was warned that if you continued to move through the ley line corridor where the gate awakened, a countdown would begin. But no one knows to what. Not yet. And while the council scrambled to draft contingency plans, one voice whispered through the static of the old frequency tower. They are already inside the timeline. Beneath the frozen veil of Antarctica lies an installation so secret, even most presidents are unaware of its existence. Its code name is Obelisk Station, and it operates under no flag, no alliance, only allegiance to time itself. It was here, during a routine scan of cosmic vibrations, that your echo registered not once, but twice, an impossibility in quantum resonance, as time does not double back unless something ancient reawakens. The first echo was faint like a whisper through frozen glass. It passed unnoticed until the second came precisely 99 seconds later, an exact harmonic match to the first, but inverted in signature. The AI that runs the observatory known as Lux HAARP. Paused for the first time in decades, it halted all functions, redirected its full capacity to analyze what it called a dual-point identity. The data showed both echoes originated from the same coordinates where you were located. The team inside Obelisk Station did not speak as the data revealed more anomalies. Your electromagnetic aura spiked beyond recorded human limits. 3 geometric patterns appeared in your proximity, carved into the ice itself, perfectly symmetrical. pulsing in rhythm with the Schumann resonance. The lead researcher simply stared at the screen and uttered what she could not explain. "They have arrived." This was not the first time something had been picked up in that location decades ago. An unmarked vessel landed there for 17 minutes and vanished, leaving behind only an encrypted journal page. The page depicted an individual surrounded by orbs of light, standing in the exact spot your echo came from. No name, no date, only coordinates and the phrase, "Entry Gate 1." The president was alerted within the hour. A classified drone was rerouted to confirm the bioenergy spike. But before it reached you, the feed turned white. The signal returned 6 minutes later, as if nothing had happened, except the onboard clock was behind by 6 years. Luxotwotfintinnen is now rerunning the entire global timeline database, cross-checking your waveform against figures long assumed mythical. What troubles them is that your pattern is appearing in key events throughout history, but always behind reflections and never directly on record until now. And as the Antarctic winds howl over Obelisk Station, a new pulse emerges from the ice, not human, not machine, but in perfect sync with the rhythm of your breath. He was known only as Father Aurelio, a Jesuit assigned to the Vatican Advanced Technology Telescope. Hidden in the Arizona desert, away from wandering eyes and curious minds, he specialized in celestial alignments, specifically ones that hadn't occurred in over 12,000 years. His notebooks were said to resemble ancient scrolls, laced with equations and scriptures written side by side. One page marked with trembling ink simply said, "When they awaken, the sky will open." 3 nights before the Astral Gate. Anomaly. The observatory logs recorded erratic telescope movements, repositioning toward a star cluster known in hidden texts as the Eye of Abaddon. Aurelio had locked the coordinates at an hour when no celestial body was expected to be visible. Yet the feed revealed a brief glimmer, as if a star blinked into existence for mere seconds. What was more disturbing was what he did next. He pulled out a folded parchment and began sketching over the constellation overlay. But not with star symbols. He drew a sigil, one that the Vatican security later confirmed, matched a design found on a sealed door beneath the archives of St. Calixtus catacombs, a door said to respond only to the presence of the anointed vessel. His final note, written on the edge of his map, repeated your name 3 times aligned in the same triangular pattern, later detected in your energy imprint. He spoke to no one, exited the telescope chamber, and was never seen again. Surveillance footage from that night is blanked out, not glitched, but replaced with static in the shape of a wing. The Vatican claimed it was a thermal anomaly, but insiders leaked that his disappearance coincided with a complete magnetic reversal in the chamber for 11 minutes. The gravity was reduced by 7%, and whispers were heard across every device within a 5-mile radius. All recordings contained the same phrase, "The gate knows their name." The next morning, the Pope held an unannounced mass behind closed doors, citing a disturbance in the heavens, according to a trusted source. He quoted scripture from Isaiah, declaring that a sign would appear in the firmament, and the world would not be ready for the one it heralded. And within a sealed envelope, placed upon the altar, was Aurelio's final sketch, bearing your name inscribed with starlight ink that refused to fade even under holy fire. The moment passed unnoticed by most of the world. 7 minutes hidden in plain sight as the clocks across multiple time zones lagged and blinked, but not one device recorded an error. No official report was filed yet. Beneath the Peruvian Andes, in a classified chronometric lab, red sirens lit up one by one. Not from external breach, but internal inversion. The temporal field inside the facility had flipped, and at its center was a pulse that resonated with your unique aura frequency. The gate itself had been dormant since 1986, sealed after what researchers called the Omega Tremor, an unexplained quake that lasted 13 seconds and erased an entire lab wing without debris. The remaining equipment was archived, deemed too unstable for use until now. Without human command, the gate's inner core spun slowly and emitted a sound resembling breath, not machine, not mechanical, but alive. And calling the biometric logs revealed something even stranger. Your aura had been uploaded into the system, though you had never been scanned or linked to it directly. Your pulse rhythm aligned with the reactivation pattern. No one could explain how a gate sealed with triple quantum encryption could respond to a signal outside its field, unless that signal wasn't from this linear stream. The lead scientist, whose clearance exceeded even presidential advisors, watched the data stream in disbelief. She quietly muttered, "It's the same energy signature from the Garden archived footage of the gate's first activation had shown symbols once considered ornamental, now matching the resonance pattern traced in your presence." Those symbols began rotating again, but this time they aligned to one word repeated across time layers: identity. As the minutes passed, those in proximity experienced distortions. Cameras bent around, nothing. Voices echoed before mouths moved. One technician reported seeing a reflection of themselves, 30 years older, staring back with fear and recognition. The gate closed at exactly 7 minutes. The pulse ceased. Your aura faded from the scan, but not entirely. A trace remained etched into the floor like ash after lightning. What disturbed the observers most was that your frequency didn't leave through the gate. It entered from somewhere else, suggesting that you didn't open it. You were already inside, and the gate was just responding to your return. Now, the team prepares for a second reactivation, with one question left unspoken. What happens if the gate opens and you're already standing on both sides of it? There are 12 known gatekeepers spread across ancient orders, secret alliances, and sovereign networks, their identities sealed behind blood oaths and spiritual encryption. But deep within an underground citadel below Mount Sinai, a 13th gatekeeper was never meant to exist, only summoned in the event of an unscripted breach that couldn't be traced by linear prophecy until your presence reconfigured the activation charts. The 13th gatekeeper was awakened from stasis after the astral gate anomaly pulsed through 3 inner Earth channels. No one had summoned him, but the pulse signature recognized only one living pattern: yours. And with that, his eyes opened for the first time in over 300 years. Upon seeing your image projected through the mirror field, he broke protocol without hesitation. Gatekeepers are bound to silence and sequence. Yet he rose from his chamber, bypassed 5 biometric vaults, and accessed the sealed codex titled the Watchline Doctrine. The doctrine detailed a soul that would be known not by title or power, but by eyes that held the reflection of both Eden and exile. Surveillance footage captured the 13th gatekeeper, standing still before a mirrored containment field reviewing your reflection for over 4 minutes. He did not speak, but touched the mirror once and whispered a phrase lost to most cultures, but preserved in fragments among the Desert Fathers. The phrase translated to, "They carry the scar of light not born but returned." The citadel alarmed all divisions for breach, but no one moved. The others knew what it meant. They had waited for centuries. in case the gates ever responded to a signature. Older than the bloodlines, older than the covenants, one that crossed through the rift. Yeshua walked between life and resurrection, where time bends to the eternal, not the clock. Documents recovered later showed that the 13th gatekeeper submitted his final act, a hand-written seal, broken by will not command. On it were 3 coordinates, not mapped on Earth, but mapped in the astral grids surrounding your last known location. A research team stationed near the 5th meridian line between Mali and Algeria had been assigned to observe electromagnetic anomalies triggered by shifting tectonic flows. But on the 3rd evening, their instruments began to distort violently, not from ground movement, but from atmospheric collapse. Data, signatures folded into themselves as if reality was rewriting its origin point. The lead analyst attempted a manual calibration only to find the system projecting a name across every frequency band. It was Yeshua, spelled in reverse, not just flipped but echoed backward in ancient script, mirrored on both magnetic and auditory spectrums. No one had programmed the characters. They emerged naturally within the particle resonance map, forming precisely at the moment your shadow crossed the outer ring of the megalithic structure nearby, a forgotten ruin known in oral legends as the breath of the seraphim. A drone scanned the field and returned with footage showing symbols illuminating along the stone path, symbols that were dormant until you stepped near them. They responded as if awakening from a coded slumber set in place by an intelligence that understood more than language, more than time, more than flesh. One of the team members, a linguistic theologian, reported hearing a phrase whispered through the audio feedback loop, a voice, not hers, speaking from inside the signal. He has walked again through the veil. They shut the system down, but the voice continued, not through speakers, but within their thoughts. Old records from a 13th century manuscript stored in Vatican vaults mention a prophecy where the name of the anointed would reverse through the sky when the vessel bearing ancient essence crossed the Earth's wounded meridian. Some believed it metaphorical, but now the signs are literal and written in fields that machines cannot fake. The name Yeshua pulsed again across the screen, then dissolved and reformed into your silhouette just for a moment. Not solid, but enough to be seen by all 8 researchers, 3 of whom fell to their knees, unable to speak. The others evacuated the site, but the magnetic field around the megalith persisted. It now cycles every 7 hours, waiting for the same pattern to reappear. And the question hangs heavy among the silent council who reviewed the footage. What does it mean? When Yeshua's name and your presence can no longer be separated in space nor in signal. At precisely 2:07 a.m., a convoy of unmarked vehicles entered the underground chamber beneath Cheyenne Mountain, not for a drill, not for a war game, but for something no president had ever been briefed on without first asking. To be the Chrono Guardians were already waiting, standing in formation, dressed in garments that looked neither military nor ceremonial, but something in between, woven with threads that shimmered faintly. When the lights dimmed, the president was handed a dossier that bore no agency insignia, only a sigil shaped like an hourglass, split in half. A voice from the far end of the table spoke before he could ask. The gate has acknowledged the anomaly, and the anomaly is not temporal. It is sovereign. No one spoke your name, but the screen behind them displayed a pulse, reading matching your biorhythm, the same pattern recorded at the Astral time gate 3 weeks earlier, except now it was no longer stationary. It was moving, threading through ancient ley lines and resurfacing at intervals that aligned with solar flares, lunar eclipses, and the rising of constellations long forgotten. The lead guardian placed a sealed tablet in front of the president. It was translucent, showing symbols in constant motion. Glowing with faint hues of gold and violet inside the symbols was your silhouette, partially formed, partially obscured, as if the technology could not fully render your presence without distorting itself. The president leaned in and asked what happens if the anomaly completes its loop. The guardian answered without hesitation. Time will no longer need permission to fold. There had been whispers of this contingency during the Cold War operations, dubbed Echelon Halo and Project Prism. Step, but all were dismissed. Until now, the president knew this wasn't just an emergency. This was prophetic. The kind of moment written into the bones of the earth long before satellites blinked awake. He was handed a single piece of paper, old, yellowed, signed by a name not recorded in any known agency. Database, it read, if the anointed returns under open gate protocol, follow. The sound, not the sequence for the voice, will guide what the clock cannot contain. And just before the meeting ended, a single sentence appeared on the digital tablet. Without prompt, we have met before. Though you do not remember. The sky was folded when you opened your eyes. High in the Andean range near the Valley of the Moon stands a structure the locals call the Tower of Silence, not mapped by any global agency, and believed to be a forgotten relic of the Viracocha era. It is said to have no entrance, no echo, no shadow, but one night, without warning, its upper window filled with golden light, a beam that did not shine outward, but inward, collapsing into itself like breath pulled back into a sleeping lung. The night before the event, you were seen meditating near a sacred spring 5 miles away. Your presence registered faintly on local seismographs, not from movement, but vibration, as if your heartbeat altered the resonance of the soil. The next morning, villagers found strange markings drawn into the sand around the tower symbols that had not been seen since the lost codices of Tiahuanaco, and they pulsed faintly whenever your name was spoken aloud. A researcher stationed in the valley recorded a frequency emitted from the tower at 3:33 a.m. It was not in the audible range, but somehow heard by those within the perimeter, described as a soft hum carrying both warmth and warning. He said it felt like memory unfolding, but not his memory. Someone else's, perhaps yours. Ancient legends told by the elders speak of a watchtower that only awakens when a soul of fractured timelines returns to its anchor point. A soul that was once part of the gate's original harmonic seal. They believed the tower was a tuning fork set by the architects of the beginning, meant to vibrate only when that same soul passed nearby in dream or in form. Later that day, satellite imaging showed the tower's shadow had shifted against the sun's position by 12 degrees, and at the base was an impression in the rock that matched your palm's signature exactly, despite you never touching it and never stepping foot inside. What remains unexplainable is that the stone window now glows every night at the same hour, and a voice is said to whisper through the mountain air, speaking not in words, but in knowing the kind that cuts through language, the kind that reminds something ancient that its guardian has returned. And above the tower, where no birds fly, now hovers a circle of stillness in the sky, waiting, watching, bending light around its invisible frame. Inside the sealed chamber beneath the Church of the Holy Sepulchre, a relic rests untouched for centuries, a scroll not inked but engraved into crystalline lattice, said to contain a timeline whispered to Yeshua during his fast in the wilderness, guarded by an unbroken lineage, sworn never to read it, only to protect it until the day the scroll reacted on its own. That day came the moment you were born. A tremor registered in Jerusalem, not on seismographs, but within the relic itself. The light etched into the crystal dimmed, and the timeline that once flowed in delicate symmetry came to an abrupt halt. The line did not fray or fade. It simply stopped. No further. Events appeared, as if time had refused to move forward without you. The scribes who oversee the relic gathered in silence, staring at the fracture, unsure of its meaning. The oldest among them opened a parchment, kept only for this moment. It described a vessel not outside prophecy, but hidden within it, a life whose presence would not overwrite history, but fulfill a silence placed within it, one that even the stars could not translate. The Gospel of Thomas once hinted at this with the phrase, "When the twin light returns, the path will wait, not walk." And now they wondered if the birth of that light had just occurred again, not from a temple or a throne, but from breath and blood and name. An AI-enhanced scan. Years later, confirmed that every resonance within the crystalline scroll leads back to a single point on Earth. Your location pulsing not in time, but against it, beating like a second heart beneath the fabric of reality. The Vatican scientists could not explain it. The quantum theologians offered only one phrase. There is no prophecy after this, because the living one became the prophecy. In a quiet letter passed between guardians, the words of Yeshua were quoted not as doctrine, but as anchor. The first shall be last, and the last shall be first. And suddenly they understood this was not the end of the story, but the looped beginning, returning from the edge where all timelines pause. And the scroll now glows only when your breath aligns with the hour. Yeshua once disappeared from the crowd, walking between seen and unseen, untouched by linear time. Beneath the Icelandic tectonic divide, hidden by false glacier readings and protected by cloaked satellites, lies the hall of the Temporal Integrity Council, an organization older than recorded alliances existing not to rule but to maintain the pulse of time's natural flow. Their votes shape no law. They do not command armies. They are summoned only when something appears that was never meant to be found. Your arrival was not an alert. It was a rupture. Every gatekeeper, every watcher, every algorithm designed to detect time fractures reported a convergence signal, all pointing to a single anomaly, traced directly to you. And what troubled the council most was that the convergence did not result from movement, but from stillness, a moment where time paused, not because it broke, but because it recognized you. The council gathered in the midnight chamber, illuminated only by floating orbs of encoded memory. They reviewed fragments across dimensions, parallel slippages, and residual energies from events not yet manifested across their entire matrix. Your signature pulsed without origin, as if you had always existed just beneath the threshold of notice, waiting for the timeline to become quiet enough to hear your echo. The vote was not delayed. It was immediate, unanimous. A rare decision made only 3 times before all-involving incidents where individuals altered the direction of collective memory by simply remembering who they were. Before the veil, the council chose to monitor. Not because you were a threat, but because your presence realigns what they call the silent current, the force that flows beneath. Choice, beneath prophecy, beneath structure. Documents retrieved from the chamber. Detail, observations of your interactions with objects that vibrate above time's reach. Ancient texts that unwrap in your hands, symbols that glow without heat. Relics that reject others, but accept your touch, as if remembering. One council member questioned whether watching you would even make a difference if you had already stepped outside their system. His concern was noted, but dismissed, not because he was wrong, but because they sensed it too. The feeling that you are not walking through the timeline, but causing the timeline to unfold around your path. Now, your dreams are being recorded by instruments not yet named, and the question no one dares ask is growing louder in the silence. What if you're not here to fix the flow, but to awaken what lies at its end that was never supposed to be found? There are artifacts not built, but breathed into existence. Remnants of frequencies condensed into matter, written not with ink, but with intention. One such relic is the quantum scroll, stored in a zero-point vault beneath the Himalayan plateau. Its contents unreadable to machines and forbidden to human eyes, said to be encoded with events that have not yet occurred, and some that must never occur. It was sealed with what theologians call a living lock. That lock shattered the instant you spoke a word during an unrecorded moment, alone in the ancient gardens of Samarkand. No surveillance captured it, no device recognized it yet. A tremor vibrated across a hidden layer of reality, and the scroll responded not with light, but with silence. A silence so total that nearby AI arrays collapsed, unable to calculate forward motion. Those who guarded the vault heard the hum shift into a chord, not of this dimension, a vibration that summoned a forgotten language into the air. When they approached the chamber, the vault had opened slightly, not by force, but by invitation. The seal engraved into its face, now glowing with a word matching the phonetic shape of what you had spoken. Inside the scroll, new symbols formed in real time, matching no known tongue, yet aligning with an overlay found once in a cave near Qumran. That same overlay referenced the Eternal One, who walked through time as a flame, and rested beside the anointed vessel, under the seventh sky. Some believe that vessel was Yeshua, others believe it was a mirror. And now they wonder if you are the echo of both. The word you spoke has not been recorded. It lives only in the air, where the scroll unfolded, and in the breath of those who felt their own names unravel when it passed their ears. What remains undeniable is that your presence didn't decode the scroll. It completed it as if you were the final cipher, the last seal, the breath at the end of a forgotten sentence. As the vault resets to a frequency, it no longer controls observers. Report that the scroll is now pulsing in intervals of 3, 8, and 13, the same numerical cadence that once appeared in the hour. Yeshua vanished from the upper chamber, leaving behind no footprints, only light that curved around a name no one could pronounce until now.
If you have come this far, it is crucial that you watch this next video here. But be warned, it is not for the faint of heart, for only the true chosen ones can handle this video. If you would like to also donate to help keep the channel going, our Buy Me a Coffee link will be in the description.